Hey everybody, I'm Chef Julia Dunaway, and today I'm going to be making some chocolate peanut butter bars. And this time I'm going to be they're plant-based, and I'm going to try to make as many steps as I can on camera, but it's going to take a while. And if I don't see some names popping up on here very quickly, I'm going to end this and I'm going to come back on unscheduled, like right away, and see if it works because this is the second time. Oh, okay, I see people coming on. What's been happening is I'll go live, but I can't see who's watching, and then it's kind of frustrating because that's the whole purpose of going live, was to be able to interact with people. So I see some people are coming on, which I'm happy about. Mary, Dorothy. And so let me tell you about this recipe. This recipe is another one out of my cookie ebook that I printed out. Anytime you get an ebook from me, you can send it to Staples or somewhere and have them print it. Print it in black and white. It's a lot cheaper. Or just keep it online. I'm kind of old school, so I print things out. But chocolate peanut butter bars is one of the recipes. You can see I've made notes because I revise it and I improve things over time to get to the point where I like them better. So I have messed around with this recipe a few times and I think I've improved it. And so that's the version I'm going to make today. And I will post the recipe with the revisions from my ebook. And also, I'll have the link to this video. I'll have the recipe. It'll be in downloadable PDF format, which I think people like because then you can get it. You can download it and print it. I see a few people are on. So what is in peanut butter bars when they're plant-based? Hi, Elizabeth. So, there's a crust, and we're going to make that first. And the crust has your typical almond flour, oat flour. So it's a very basic crust. And then there's a filling, and that's where we get involved with peanut butter. So we use some really good quality peanut butter, like a natural peanut butter that only has peanuts and a little salt. Hi, Kathleen. Good afternoon. And then we use, for sweetness, dates. So that's why it's semi-healthy, because it does have dates instead of a lot of refined sugar. A little bit of maple syrup, but you could leave that out. I tasted it before I put the maple syrup in. It actually tasted pretty good. So you could just leave the maple syrup out, but you don't, you can add it. And I use common everyday dates. These are the dates you can get at Costco or any grocery store probably. And they're just medjool dates, organic. They're very soft and easy to work with. So I love to use that type of date. Looks like we have about 8 people. So I'm going to get started. And then the last part is a chocolate layer. So it's got a chocolate topping. And I'm using these beautiful chocolate discs from El Rey. So I get my chocolate from Chocolates El Rey or from Venezuela. And they have the best professional or couverture chocolate. So it's a better quality than grocery store manufactured chocolate chips, for example. They just aren't the same. So if you can order some chocolate from Chocolates El Rey in Stonewall, Texas, wonderful. If not, you can use whatever you can find. There are some higher quality chocolates available in the stores now, but I can't tell you which ones are which because I don't use them. I always order my chocolate from Chocolates El Rey. I don't have an affiliate relationship with them, but to me, it's worth the shipping. And I order a lot at one time, like I'll order several pounds and keep them in the freezer. So let's make our crust. First of all, what I've done is I've lined my 9-inch square pan. I think it's 9-inch. What did I say in my recipe? 8-inch, sorry. 8-inch square pan. And I've put parchment paper on both sides so that it's covered both ways. I just cut it to fit. And then the crust is really simple. It consists of almond flour, 1.5 cups of almond flour. And remember, you're going to get the full recipe. But if you're trying to make it right now, then you want the recipe now. I understand. 1/2 cup of oat flour. If you don't have oat flour per se, you can make it just by taking your rolled oats and grinding them up in your food processor. Super simple. Okay. We have a teaspoon of baking powder, 1/4 of a teaspoon of baking soda, 1/4 of a teaspoon of kosher salt. And then I always use a whisk and whisk all the dry ingredients together. That just works the best. And then once you feel like you've got that well blended, hi Tish, got quite a few of you watching now, 9. That's great. So how many of you saw my video on Wednesday? I can't even remember what I made. What did I make? If you saw my video on Wednesday, let me know, because that was one of those things where I had it on, but I couldn't tell if anybody was watching it. So I was like, well, did anybody see this? Oh, it was at the grits bowl. So it was the grits and vegetables and tofu bowl. Okay, so I think I've got that part. Now we're going to add a fourth of a cup of peanut butter. I've already got it measured out to make this quicker. And then we're going to add some vanilla. Go look at my recipe. A teaspoon of vanilla extract. Okay, Dorothy was there. See, that was one where I know people were there, but I could not see that people were watching. So I couldn't respond to any comments or anything. So if that happens again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just end the video and come back on live and see if that helps, because that shouldn't happen like that. Teaspoon of vanilla, 3 tablespoons of almond milk. Okay, and that's all the ingredients for the crust. If you don't like peanut butter, let's say that peanut butter is just not your thing, you could use almond butter in place of the peanut butter in everything that I'm doing. It's just nut butter or pistachio butter, cashew butter. Yes, not everybody loves peanut butter. I think I'm going to use this one. It's a little bit bigger. But I've only used peanut butter on this because the whole purpose of it was to have a peanut butter bar. Because I make a lot of things with almond butter. So what I'm doing now is I'm kind of cutting the nut butter, vanilla, and almond milk into the dry mixture to get it kind of combined well. And it's hard to do it by mixing it, so it works better if you cut it with a fork or something. I didn't bring my fork in here, so I'm kind of using this spatula. It works the same. Because what we want to do is we want to get all the dry part moistened. And you want to get it to a point where you could pick it up and it holds together. Like I could pick it up and see it holds together, so I know it's ready. And that's not that hard to do. It doesn't take that long to get everything mixed up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in the prepared pan. Yeah, I'm going to need the vanilla for the next part. So nobody else besides Dorothy was there on the Wednesday live. I'm kind of surprised. Hello from Massachusetts. Hello, Tish. Having a little bit of my dandy blend. Does anybody else drink dandy blend? Okay, I'm just going to dump it all in here at one time. That works for me. And then I just take my hand and press it down. My hands are clean. I washed them right before I started the video. And then you just make sure you press it down. It doesn't have to look perfect. You know, it's not going to look like you blended it in the food processor. It's not intended to, but it's fine. It's blended enough to make this bottom layer. And then if it's uneven, like I can tell that this corner here is a little bit thinner than the middle, so I'm kind of migrating some of the center over toward that corner just by kind of pushing it in that direction. And then I'm going around the edges because I want the edges to be nice and flat. And I even have a tool. I could use this offset spatula to go down the sides to make them a little bit more even looking. These offset spatulas are so handy for lots of things because when you mess with them, they're flat like that. So you can just kind of press things down and go easily. Okay, I'm going to put this in the fridge. And we want to chill that. Normally in my recipe, it says to put it in the freezer for 10 minutes, but my freezer's in the other room and it's kind of a pain to go back and forth. So I'm just putting it in my little fridge. Hi, Elise. So the next layer is the butter layer. This is the soft layer. And I have a food processor here. Brand new. I just bought it. Amazon. It's a Cuisinart. It's a new model. And it was $79, but it's only 7 cups. So you can see, I'll show you, it's very small. And the reason I got this is because I had a small 7-cup Cuisinart for years and years, and I used it for certain things like hummus, things that were smaller quantities of things. So, it kind of finally stopped working after 10 years or whatever. So then I got a Vitamix food processor, and my Vitamix food processor, oh, here it is wonderful, but it looks like this. It is huge, like, the container is gigantic compared to this one, and so what happens is any kind of small quantity of something, it just kind of, gets lost, it kind of moves around, but it doesn't come together very well, especially if it's not really moist. So I thought, "This is just not working for stuff like this." Hi, Nancy. So I got this small one, and I'm so glad I did because it worked beautifully. Okay, so I'm gonna put my 10 dates in here, and I'm spreading them around so they don't all ball up in one spot. And then I have another 4th cup of peanut butter. Let's see, where did I put my thing? Oh, here it is. And I'm gonna spread that around a little bit too, so it's not all in one clump in the same spot. This peanut butter is so good. As soon as I opened the jar, the dogs smelled it. They came running into the kitchen because I usually give them peanut butter if I'm cooking or doing something with it, and they know it. So they came running in to taste some peanut butter. And I take a spoon, another spoon, and give it to them. Okay, and then we're going to put a teaspoon of vanilla. Okay, it would help if I kept up with the spoons I are here that I already have out. Okay, teaspoon of vanilla. And then this also uses a little almond milk, like only 1.5 tablespoons, and a little pinch of salt. Like, let's see, I have 1/8 of a teaspoon, which is barely any. Put that in. The salt does give it a little extra something. It really does. A lot of people are salt haters, but salt to me adds something if you don't get carried away with it. Okay, a tablespoon, let's see, a tablespoon and a half of milk. I'm using almond milk. And then 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. So I've got this just pure maple syrup, not the maple flavored syrup. That was the only kind that I knew about growing up. We didn't have pure maple syrup. In fact, the first time I tried pure maple syrup, I didn't like it because I was used to having imitation maple syrup. I won't tell you the brand, but Log Cabin or whatever. Growing up, and so then when somebody suggested that that wasn't real maple syrup and the real thing was different, I couldn't believe it. I was like, "What do you mean? What's wrong with the maple syrup I grew up eating? I thought it was fine." And so when I tried the real maple syrup, I thought, "Oh, I don't really like this." Now I can't imagine eating the imitation maple syrup. I think I would hate it. Okay, so then with the new food processor, I'm just learning it. It goes down like that, and then it clicks in place, and then I turn it on, and I'm just going to let it go. It'll just take 30 seconds. And it's a good idea. Oops. It's a good idea to check check it after a couple minutes because it's good to push it down because sometimes it will kind of ride up on top. And so this isn't doing it this time, but last time it kind of did. And then just keep going because I want it to be smoother. Like right now, I can see little chunks of stuff. It's almost there, but I like it to be just a tiny bit smoother. But it's good. I could just use it right now, but I'll just give it more seconds. Mm. Oh. I forgot a step. I hate to admit it, but this goes in the oven for 14 minutes. So sorry. It's not going to be ready. It's going to go in the oven. That is too funny. That's what happened. Hi, Patricia. That's what happens when you don't make your own food that often. And Cindy and Patricia. And I actually made this morning. But when you get on camera, sometimes you get a little nervous. Okay, so let's look at our filling. And we won't worry about filling it right now. We still have to cook it. And I'm going to show you what it looks like when it's done. And I'll show you how I did the chocolate topping. But we'll get this out first. And we'll put it in our bowl so we can see how it looks. Get the crumbs out of here. Okay, so much for just being so good at this, right? Okay, I'm going to get this off of here. I want you to see how this is supposed to look when it's ready and the consistency of it. It's very thick. You don't want it to be a thin spread. You want it to be a thick filling because, this is the major center of your bars. So that's how you want it to be. Okay, here, the blade. Got to get all the filling that gets stuck to the blade and get it off of there. And then you have to get it off the spatula. I think a smaller spatula would help. And I see some new people joining. 14 people. That's great. So we'll just get it all out of here and we'll have it ready for when the crust is done. But I've already made a whole batch of this. So I'm going to show it to you. And we'll even cut it up. I wanted you to see a finished one because I knew we couldn't make the whole thing on camera. But I wanted to show you how each component is made because that's something that if I didn't do it in front of you, then there might be some questions about, well, how did you do this part and how did you do that part? And I know that when I'm watching things, I always want to know how they did stuff. Okay, I'm going to get the rest of this filling off of here. The dogs are snoozing. They're not even in here. I can't believe they're not coming because they smell peanut butter. I got to wash my hands off. But you see, this is the amount of filling. Hi, Kathy. Morden. That's the right amount. And then we've got the crust in the oven. It takes 14 minutes. And then we're going to talk. I'm going to talk about the last part. So these chocolate peanut butter bars have 3 components. They have the crust, which was almond flour and oat flour with a little bit of almond milk and peanut butter in it. So that's layer number 1. Layer number 2 is a peanut butter layer. And you're really going to need an offset spatula to spread it on the other layer. And what I normally do is after that layer cooks 14 minutes in the oven, I put it in the freezer for like 10 minutes to cool it off before I put this on because you don't want this to melt. So we're not going to be doing that today in this demo because that first layer is going to be hot. But I'm going to show you the finished one that has all 3 layers. But first we're going to make the last layer, which is the chocolate layer. And this is really important because I want to show you a technique called tempering. So in tempering, I've got my stove on. I'm going to put it on simmer. I'm going to let it simmer. First, I'm going to let it warm up a little bit. And I'm going to tell you about why you should temper things. So normally when people do stuff with chocolate, they just melt chocolate and they put the melted chocolate on top of their dessert. But if you do that, unless it's a really fake type of chocolate, like those chocolate, what are they called? They're really cheap chocolate, melting chocolate, but it has paraffin in it and some weird stuff in it that is very artificial, so I would never use that. But that doesn't have problems because it's got part of artificial stuff in it. But to temper dark chocolate, like to temper good chocolate that you buy in the bulk section of your grocery store that's, Valrhona, El Rey, just some kind of couverture chocolate it's called, which is a pure chocolate, not a chocolate with a bunch of ingredients. There's nothing in it but cocoa and usually some cane sugar. I don't know where the ingredients are on this one, but here it is. It has nothing but Venezuelan cocoa liquid, cocoa butter, cane sugar, and vanilla, and soy lecithin. So it doesn't have too many ingredients. If we were to melt this and just straight melt it, like melt it in the microwave or melt it in a pan and put it on our topping, what would happen is it would look okay right away. Like it would look fine. And if you put it in the refrigerator for a little while, it might look okay. But within a day, pretty quickly, the chocolate will change colors. Okay, I'm going to turn this down. We want the water to be here, it's not really hot yet. I'm going to get the water simmering on low heat. I don't want it on a high heat because then the chocolate will get too hot. So the difference is, and I have a demonstration for you. If you melt chocolate and you don't temper it, it will stay soft at room temperature. It will never be hard at room temperature. You have to chill it. And then it will get hard while it's cold. But as soon as it comes to room temperature, it melts. And so you can't take it with you because it will just melt in your car or pocket or whatever. So when you buy a chocolate bar that stays hard at room temperature or wherever you take it, it still has a snap. It's still hard. That's because that chocolate's been tempered. So here's an example of my chocolate. I took this chocolate and I tempered it. And I'm going to show you what that means. And therefore, my chocolate at room temperature is shiny, dark, and it will snap. It will break. It won't just melt. It won't melt in my hands just by touching it. And I can kind of crack it and it will stay this way. If I took it somewhere, that chocolate would stay exactly the same. But the other thing about it that's most important is the appearance of it. See how it's dark and shiny and pretty? It has a nice kind of a glow to it. That's because I tempered it. If I didn't do that, what happens within a day or so is the chocolate will develop what's called a bloom. I'm going to turn this down kind of low. Okay, so I have my pan of barely simmering water. Now I'm going to put 75% of my chocolate in here. So I'm going to take about a handful out. This is a cup of chocolate. So 3/4 of a cup goes in here. 1/4 of a cup goes on my cutting board. And I'm just going to have this over simmering water, and the bowl fits the pan so steam is not going to get on my chocolate because water and chocolate are enemies. It will seize it up and it will make it turn weird colors. And then I have a spatula here to stir the chocolate around, but it's going to take a while for that chocolate to start melting. In the meantime, I'm going to cut up this chocolate because the tempering process is as follows. We melt 75% of the chocolate and we bring it up to a temperature of about 120 degrees. And I have my little handy thermometer. If you don't have a thermometer, just when it's melted over low heat and it's all melted. Again, when it's all melted, we take it off the heat. We just take the bowl and set it on the cutting board away from the heat. Put the water far away because you don't want steam on your chocolate because that's a form of water. Then we're going to add this part back into the chocolate because this chocolate here is already tempered. So basically what we're doing is we're realigning the crystals, the structure of the cocoa, because what happens, it's kind of a scientific thing that happens. When you melt the chocolate, the cocoa ingredient changes its crystal structure. And and it won't come back together ever again like it was before. So then when it hardens, it won't look the same. It will have streaks of light in it. It will get kind of murky looking. It will get gray. It won't look good. It will look totally different. It's not very appetizing. Now, if you're melting chocolate to use in an ingredient where you don't see it, where it's mixed in with other stuff, then it doesn't really matter. But when you're using your chocolate as a topping and you have to look at it, it's important to temper it. I found this out the other day. It really reminded me because I hadn't thought about it on my triple chocolate cookies that I made recently. And I made triple chocolate cookies and I just put plain, I chopped this up kind of small because I want it to melt. So what I did was I put just a chocolate disc, just one of these, on top of my cookies, and it melted. And they looked fine for a couple of days. Well, then I had the bright idea to freeze those cookies. And I put them in the freezer. Well, once they're not at room temperature anymore, then the cocoa structure just goes back to how it used to be. So they develop this kind of a white, like a whiteness, this ugly color. Just did not look the same. They taste the same, but they looked pretty bad. They didn't look the same. And I had made them to give to somebody. And I did not realize until I saw them that they didn't look that good. They just looked kind of, I don't know, unappetizing. See how this chocolate's melting? It's just over lightly simmering water, not heavily boiling water, just lightly simmering water. So that got me thinking, I know better. That made me think, you know better. You should have tempered that chocolate before you put it on those cookies, meaning do this so that no matter what I did, freezer, refrigerator, room temperature, the chocolate would look the same. The chocolate would look like this. It would stay this nice color. It would stay hard. It wouldn't get murky. It wouldn't have yellow streaks. So if you want to give this away as a gift, or you just want it to look really good, temper your chocolate. Now there's an easier way to temper it, and that's through the microwave. And really, I kind of get away from doing demos with microwave because people that are watching chefs, they're like, why are you doing it in the microwave? Why don't you just do it, without a microwave? Honey, Tori came to see me. Hello, girl. Come back and say hi. You come back and say hi. You want to say hi to everybody? This is not something you can eat. You can't have any cookies. Okay, here you are. There you go. See? Everybody's watching you. Everybody's watching you. Okay. Now I gotta wash my hands. So, it's one of those things that you can choose to temper stuff, or you could say, no, I don't want to bother with it. But for me, it's kind of like I want to teach you how to do things that you don't already know. Maybe you already know how to do this, but I never heard of it. And it explained a lot to me once I learned, okay, now see the chocolate is really getting melted. And we're looking for a temperature of 120 degrees, approximately 118 to 122 degrees. If we get it too hot, that's a bad idea. So I'm kind of spreading it around to make sure it hits all the hot surfaces. And as soon as it gets to 120 degrees, I'm going to move it over to my cutting board where it's not so hot. I'm going to get it right off of here. And the bowl's not hot or anything because it's not really on a high heat. But this is exactly how we want to melt it. We don't want to melt it on high heat. So now it looks like all this chocolate is melted. So I'm going to turn that off, and I'm going to get that hot pan away, and I'm going to put this here on my cooler cutting board. And then I'll check the temperature and tell you what the temperature is. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to pull it up a little bit here. And then I can get a good temperature read. Okay, 121, 122. Okay, perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. Now I'm going to take this chocolate here that I chopped up really small, and I'm going to throw it in here because this is going to temper it. This is going to bring it back to how it was before I melted it. So in other words, it's going to be at room temperature. It's going to be hard, but I have to make sure I get it all melted back in here. And sometimes that can be tricky because if it wasn't hot enough and I add this unmelted chocolate, sometimes it takes a while for it to melt back into it. So we'll give it a minute. But then we want to cool it down. Wow, that was already 14 minutes. That's awesome. So you'll get to see the crust. So we're looking for light brown, not dark. So kind of a light brown like that. Remember I told you I'm going to put it in the refrigerator. Now is the time to put it in the refrigerator. I have a cutting board in my refrigerator, so I don't put it on the glass shelf because You can imagine putting something hot in your refrigerator on a glass shelf. That's not a good idea. So now what we want to do is we want to see how this chocolate's melted back into the original chocolate, and it's all melting really nicely. Then we can check the temperature, and we want to stir it and cool it until it's at a temperature of about 88 degrees. 88 to 90 degrees is the ideal temperature before we start spreading it on something. And it is at 89 degrees. Perfect. So now if we were to take this chocolate right here, we could spread it on the same piece of parchment paper, and this way you'll know what I'm talking about. We could just take a little bit of it and spread it here on this parchment paper. Within a relatively short time, while I'm doing the rest of my demonstration, this will harden and we'll have that exact thing that we're looking for, tempered chocolate. So that's my chocolate tempering demonstration. And, this is something that I never really thought would be all that valuable, but it's turned out to be something that has really helped with fancier things. Like if you made a cake to take somewhere and you wanted it to have a chocolate glaze, well, that's how you make a chocolate glaze, a ganache. Ganache, you use cream, so you don't have to worry about that. But if you're putting a chocolate glaze, it's just made of chocolate on something. You really have to temper it. Okay, so that's done. I'm going to let it sit over here. And I'm going to show you what a finished peanut butter bar looks like. Let me clean off my cutting board. Because I've done all the steps earlier today, so you would see it. If anyone has any questions, I see Kathy's the last one to sign on, but there's 15 people. So does anyone have any questions? We're kind of breezing through this pretty fast. Okay. So I have one that I made earlier today that has all the layers. And because I have this parchment paper, I can just get it right out. And then it's really easy for me to cut because I just peel away the parchment paper. And there it is. All 3 layers. I'll take the parchment paper off so you can see the layers better. Hold it up for you. So you see it's got the distinct layers. It's got the bottom crust, it has the peanut butter layer, and it has the chocolate. Of course, the chocolate is hard because it's been in the refrigerator. So then now we have to look at how are we going to cut this into bars. Let me rinse my hands off again. It's hard to do stuff when your hands are sticky and messy. Okay, so my method for cutting this is get my food processor out of the way. It's bugging me. It's right here on the side. Okay, so the best way to cut it is with something hot because otherwise it's just going to tear apart. Okay, so I'm going to cut it with, what I'm doing is I'm making my bench scraper hot. I got my gas heat on here. If you don't want to do it on your stove, you can do it in hot water, like a glass of hot water or something. But I'm going to make it hot enough that it will cut through the chocolate. I think that'll be good. Trust me, it works. I know it sounds strange. And then I'm just going to cut the first bar here. Oops. And even then, I managed to break it a little bit. Okay. But you get the idea? Use something hot. And then instead of cracking the top, it kind of melts through it. So I need to do it a little bit on this side. I'm going to make my thing a little bit hotter. See, that's the other thing about when you have this tempered chocolate. It's really solid. Like, it's not soft anymore. Where typical melted chocolate stays soft. And you wouldn't have this problem. But this tastes so much better because you have that crispy chocolate. And there's nothing like biting into that. It's just so good. Okay, so we just let it sit on the surface until it melts through the chocolate. And then it's a lot easier to cut. There we go. I'm going to cut like 3 bars here. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in the freezer because I can tell the peanut butter part is still a little soft. And as long as that's soft and you cut through the chocolate part, then it's hard to cut. But I want you to see that one piece that I did cut successfully. Let me get my offset spatula. So I did have one successful piece that I cut. The rest of it, I'm going to stick it in the freezer and let the inside firm up a little more before I cut the rest of it. But you can see this part. It has the crust, the middle part, and then the top. And then if you bite into it, you'll taste all 3 parts. Oh, there's just no describing how good that is. And especially the top that is the really good melted or the good solid chocolate. So it's almost like eating some kind of really good chocolate bar, but it also has the soft peanut butter and the crust. So what I'm going to do is, where's my pan? I'm going to put it back in my pan, and I'm going to put that. We'll stick this on it. I'm going to put it in the freezer, and then when the inside part, when this peanut butter part gets more solid, then I'll cut it. But you see how I cut it? I've warmed up the bench scraper and then held it on there because this chocolate was really hard. Okay, so that's my cutting method. It's got a little wet. I want to put it on here and make it wet on here. All right, so let's see. Now, how do we get this back on here? Shouldn't be that hard. But yeah, so, I'm usually I'm not in a hurry to get these cut. So I've never experienced them being quite that difficult to cut before. So this time I've got to give it a little bit more time. Usually I have more time to let it sit. This one won't fit back in here now. So I'm going to get this back into the freezer, I think, because that way the inside will cut better. But in the meantime, I have, this first piece that I cut. It's on my hands now. So you can really get an idea of what it looks like. The 3 layers. And then I have this piece that I still need to work on cutting. But I'm going to get my bench scraper warm again so that I can cut through that chocolate. So there you go. This is the chocolate peanut butter brownie bars. Or not chocolate peanut butter bars, no brownie. And, it doesn't look all that exciting when you're looking at it and you're thinking, what's so special about that? But when I made this, when I was testing recipes for my cookie ebook, I made this a couple times back then. And then they would sit, for a couple of days, and I would get them out of the refrigerator or whatever, out of the container, sit down and eat one, with a cup of coffee or tea. And I would be so happy to eat it. It would just taste so good. I thought, this has got to be the best cookie bar that I make. And I make a lot of them. So if I tell you it's the best one, it's because it really is. It really is. Hi, Lydia. It really is one of the best ones I've made. Okay, so let's look at our chocolate. It's firming up. The one that I tempered for you. It hasn't been enough time yet, but you could see the edge. The part that has dried is this edge here, and it's coming off the parchment paper. So it's going to be like the other one. It's going to be hard at room temperature, and that's why we have this one where when you bite into it, it's like a crack, and that's how you know it's tempered, and that's what makes it so good. And it's never going to turn weird colors. It's never going to be something that you wouldn't want to give somebody because I didn't want to give those cookies to that person. Okay, Dora says, oops. Calendar save must have been Texas, joining late. I'll watch replay from the beginning. Yeah, I originally had it at 1 o'clock, which was a mistake. It was supposed to be noon. I don't know what happened. So I went back in and changed it to noon. When I saw the mistake, I said, oh no, it's supposed to be at noon. But anyway, you can watch the replay. And for those of you who are on here, I appreciate it. New Jersey, you're on Eastern time. I'm on Central time. So making this was my effort to have an Easter dessert for tomorrow. I originally was going to make more triple chocolate cookies, but then I remembered how good the peanut butter bars were. And I thought, if I had one thing to eat for Easter Sunday dinner, what would it be? And I thought, oh, I love the chocolate peanut butter bars they're in my cookies, plant-based cookies book. So I said, I've just got to make those because those are the best. So then I thought, well, if I'm going to make them, I better make them for the people. Since it's something I'm making, I usually only make things for you that I'm going to make anyway. So tomorrow, the family comes over for Easter dinner, and they like certain things, mashed potatoes. I'm making asparagus. I have a bunch of asparagus in my garden, and then a big salad. I'll make mashed potatoes with cashew cream. And then dessert. My husband, they want pies from a certain pie company that they get pies from all the time. Apple pie and pecan pie. They're not plant-based, and I never eat them. They get them and they eat them. And then I'll make something like this, and they can share that. Oh, thank you for another great class. Have a blessed Easter. Thank you, Elizabeth. So they can have whatever dessert they bring, and then I always provide something that I like then I can have a dessert. So it all works out good. I end up having plenty of things for me to eat. Usually I make a ton of things with vegetables and potatoes this time, or rice, a big salad. And then I'll make tofu. They don't want to eat tofu, lentils, veggie loaf, none of that stuff. That's not their thing. So they'll have what they have. They'll bring other stuff. And that's fine. I don't want to discourage them from coming to see me because they're thinking, oh, we have to eat mom's vegan food. We don't want that. And so, life is too short to alienate my family because they don't want to eat the way I do. So I tell them to come, and I make them a few things that they like that I don't eat, like their mashed potatoes their way. I make mine my way, and then I make them some their way. Vegetables, the same. Salads, the same. Dinner rolls, usually the same. I get some that don't have butter and oil and stuff. But, it's the idea is they're coming over to see me. When you have a family, have a wonderful family. Thank you, Kathy. We're doing an Easter egg hunt too. But, there's a whole trend in our society now where families split apart and they don't get together. And adult children don't want to hang out with their parents. And people have gotten into kind of a thing where they don't do as much together as they used to. It's just the way of the world now. I don't want to do anything to alienate my family, especially since one family member's already gone. One of my sons died a couple years ago this August. So I really feel like the ones who are still here are even more precious than ever. So if they'll come over and hang out with me, I'm happy. And we'll do whatever it is that is fun for everybody. And then I'm happy with that. So I'll have desserts that I like and other dishes to eat, hummus and vegetables for an appetizer, and, plenty of food on the dinner table, plenty of stuff for dessert, plenty of things, activities to do, and we'll just have a great time. So that's what I'm going to do. And I will be making the chocolate peanut butter bars. They turned out great. Don't forget the lesson in chocolate tempering. It really does make a difference. And since I didn't spread my chocolate, it's already starting to harden in my bowl. So then what do you do if you don't use it and then it goes out of temper? You just melt it and do it again. Add a few pieces of unmelted chocolate and it will be fine. So I'll just redo that over the simmering water and it'll be fine. So I'm going to get going and get out of here, get these in the freezer. They turned out so well. and I can bite into it, and it's still going to give me a crack. Did you hear that? Snap. That is tempered chocolate. All right, everybody. This would be hard not to eat this right now. I'll see you all Monday, and I'll be coming live out of Texas. You'll find out Monday where I'm at. Okay, bye-bye, everybody. Happy Easter.